I hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend. I know I certainly did, and Jason probably did as well. But we're back here on TYT Sports. Plenty of news, specifically around the footballing world. Carlo Ancellotti sacked as manager of Real Madrid 1 year after delivering them their first UEFA Champions League trophy since 2001-2002. So, to give you some context of Ancelotti's situation, apparently, despite him actually being relieved from his duties, he was going to take a year out. He was going to take a year sabbatical to get some back surgery, but of course he now can do that without actually being in a position. So the thing about this is I'm going to get into detail. I'm going to share my perspective on it. I'm going to obviously go on a rant about what I think about Real Madrid and the inconsistency amongst the team and the staff. It's almost like a reality TV show. It should be called Keeping Up with Perez, because that's who it is. He's the president. He likes to try and go between whatever he favours at the moment and whatever the fans really favour, because they all have kind of short memories. So the front runner, Rafa Benitez, according to Ancelotti's agent, he says 99% sure that Rafa Benitez, former manager of Liverpool and now manager, or at the moment, until the end of the Serie A season, of Napoli. So Rafa Benitez, known for his time at bringing the Champions League trophy to Liverpool, a memorable night in Istanbul, has always valued Real Madrid in his heart and has actually called them his sweethearts. So Rafa Benitez is an interesting decision. Yeah, he's got a crush on him. So Rafa Benitez is an interesting decision, I think, to say the least. If it was me and I was Perez, I'm not Perez because I don't think in the moment. I think Real Madrid fans, especially Perez as well, think in the moment. At the moment, it wasn't a great season for Real Madrid. In context, it's been a successful 2 seasons because they've started to build a team that started to come together with chemistry. But then what do? They try and buy and sell in bulk. So they'll sell Di Maria, who was good. They didn't offer him enough of a contract, basically. They didn't show him enough respect to keep him there. He goes away. He was a vital part. They try and replace him and bring in some big names this year. Obviously, we've got James Rodriguez, we've got Toni Kroos. And in retrospect, they're good signings, but they just don't seem to build. They want to tear down and then rebuild rather than build from the ground up.
It's what I find so interesting about Real Madrid is that team chemistry is very, very important when it comes to coaching. And I guess Ancelotti, over the course of the last 2 years, obviously very successful winning the Champions League and La Liga, not long ago, like a year ago.
Yeah.
But I wonder what Benitez's ego control is, because Napoli does not have Ronaldo. Napoli does not have players, if Bale is still on Real Madrid come the beginning of next season. What's so interesting is the Serie A also is defensive specialists. We know they play tougher defense, but I don't think Real Madrid's defense was entirely the problem. That's a team that should be able to score goals in bulk. And this also falls into line with the idea that Pellegrini's getting fired, who was successful just a year ago. And now Ancelotti's out the door and possibly on the operating table to get his back taken care of.
So I just think that they need someone to come in and bond everyone together. And I think that perfect person would be Jurgen Klopp, because I think he did that with Borussia Dortmund. I think that he's built a team that were so honest and true and believed every word he said. So he had that team chemistry, despite the fact that they lost several of their players throughout his campaign and would lose some of their big names like your Lewandowski's and your Götze. So he still seemed to get his team bonded together, despite this season being considered not so much a success, especially with the rocky start, but they still managed to get themselves high enough on the table. But I think he would be good to come in to just deliver a mentality to everyone at Real Madrid that it's his way, which is basically impossible with Perez at their helm, but it's his way to try and make sure that this team goes forward and builds, and not expecting the massive turnaround which Real Madrid fans expect. I mean, a guy that scored a winner in the Champions League final when your biggest player, Ronaldo, wasn't exactly at the races. Bale scored, but they're quick enough to turn on him when he has a season that isn't up to par, rather than trying to help and build and move forward.
The problem I have with Real Madrid is that it seems like they go too much to the fans and they're under control by them. You can't, if you're building a team, Barcelona, we talk about Ivan Rakitic all the time as him being one of those players that has developed with the team and came up and they build strong formations. They're obviously successful, winning La Liga this year, potentially winning the Champions League this year as well. The problem I see, though, is you can't be at the fans' mercy, and you also need to get your owner under control. But when a coach comes in, or a boss, manager, whichever you want to title it, it does have to be their way, because they're the ones down on the field. Yes, they're not the ones writing your paychecks, and that's a big problem that occurs in every single sport, but it's supposed to be their way. And it seems like Ancelotti lost control of this team completely. It seems like they're always going to be in the headlines because you have a player like Ronaldo. Yeah, when he kicks a ball into the net because he didn't score, that makes huge headlines. But you got to be able to separate the two. So don't be at the fans' mercy. Fans are impatient. They want to win. They want to win now. And once you catch the scent of winning, like last year, there's no excuse not to win again and again and again and again in a fan's mind.
Yeah.
But that's not how a team works. That's not how chemistry works. And that's not how you build franchises and powerhouses.
Yeah, and it's not how someone like Real Madrid has ever really worked, because they've went through some of these stages where they have the Galacticos and you have your Ronaldos and your Zidanes, and that was kind of just, people thought that was the glory days of Real Madrid. I mean, going back way in history, they've had fantastic teams.
One of the greatest footballers of all time on your team. Yeah, it's the glory days right now.
They should be able to break. They're building far too much from the forward, from the front. That's why I said they didn't build enough from the back line this year. They should have brought in a new goalkeeper. They should have understood that although a legend, Casillas, they needed someone. Now they're wanting De Gea, but that should have been last season. They should have tried to get someone in there at the back. They needed another centre back, because sometimes if you get Ramos injured, they start putting in, they'll move him into centre midfield. They don't really have a back four when you look like someone like Barcelona, who rarely would alter between Alves, Alba, Piqué and Mascherano in there. And yes, they brought in someone like Matteo who can come in and play that role. Real Madrid didn't seem to do that. They wanted to build from the front.
Spot starts.
Yeah, well, it's based on injuries as well. But when Modric went out, they thought that they could pull Kroos back into that position, and they didn't just really have a set team. They had a set formation, don't get me wrong. They rarely moved away from that 4-2-3-1, and they would always have Ronaldo, obviously, on the left and Bale on the right. And when they clicked, they were great. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is the way it needs to be all the time. But it doesn't always go to plan. We know this in football. It doesn't always go to plan. Barcelona had to adapt without Suarez, which was fine because they never really played with him. But then they had to adapt with Suarez, and they could do that fantastically because they have a structure.
But it also took time.
Yeah.
And Barcelona fans were not patient when Suarez first came there. They wanted to see the Suarez of Liverpool. And the second Suarez started smacking in goal after goal after goal and hit his form, all of a sudden, the impatience wears off and it turns into, oh my God, we have maybe the best attacking three the world has ever seen. But fans are impatient, and especially of teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona, the greats of Premier League, like Manchester United. Watch Juventus, if they win the Champions League next year, we're going to be probably talking about how their boss could be on the hot seat because they're not repeating Champions League trophies.
Yeah, it's very true. The football fans are the most impatient, especially Real Madrid fans.
The one thing to clarify, that's totally fine. As a sports fan, and you are too, I'm the most impatient sports fan. I've been waiting years.
And you will be waiting more years for a next championship. If you're going to throw out the next, I was going to say you'll be waiting a little bit, I think. But you never know. In football, if there's one thing that I must say that I love about football is that teams can turn it around in 1 year. We were talking about this before when I asked you, how can the Lakers get back to the way that they're going to be? It's going to take time. It's going to take time to do this. Football, it should take time to rebuild, but Real Madrid, don't get me wrong, next season they could very easily, if they keep their best players, and which they will, and add more stability to the team, they'll come back next year and they could easily win the Champions League.
Here's the thing that doesn't make sense to me, real quick. And this I've always found is true with every single sport. It doesn't matter what the sport is. You have your marquee player, your star talent, who you build around. Now in basketball it makes sense because there's only 5 players on the floor at all times. So if you do have one player can come in and literally change the course of a team. LeBron James going back to the Cavs, LeBron James when he first came to the Cavs, Anthony Davis when he went to the Pelicans, all that stuff. Back to soccer or football. You have a marquee star player in Cristiano Ronaldo. You can't just plug and place the right players for less money that serve a purpose during that period of time against the teams you know you're going to face, instead of going out and having to sign, let's say, and no discredit to James Rodriguez, but a James Rodriguez. Can't you afford 2 or 3 players instead of 1?
Well, when Real Madrid, you can afford whoever you want, with their amount of money. But Real Madrid have built this idea that they bring in the star name of that summer. So they bring in your James Rodriguez because he took the World Cup by storm. They bring in Gareth Bale because he took the Premier League by storm. And they're known as being a team who can take who they want and bring in. But at the same time, where's this back four that they should be building that should be so in tune with each other? It's not there.
Some defenders.
They need to sign. I said that they should have signed Mads Hummels last year. If Manchester United couldn't lure him away from Dortmund, I think Real Madrid could have if they brought in someone like Mads Hummels, because Pepe and Ramos, yes, at times are great together, but there's far too often they'll be caught up in Pepe, as we know, off the field
Pepe's
things.
A loose cannon.
Yeah, he's
too.
loose, but he's still a good defender though, and that's the thing, is you get someone beside him who's always consistent like Ramos, but again he gets injured or he's moved into midfield. I just don't think that they have the set back four that some of the best teams have, like Juventus, or if it's a back three they'll play Bayern Munich, although they weren't as good this year. I just think that Real Madrid have always been focused on buying the big name attacking players for the fans, because the Galacticos love the idea of the Galacticos is the goal scoring players who can take it.
You have the best, I consider Messi the best, but you have the top two. In Cristiano Ronaldo, you have the guy who can score every single day, and for most times during the season, he does score every single day. Yeah, it's frustrating to me.
Well, but then people get frustrated when you buy someone like Gareth Bale, who thrives off of getting the ball 9 times out of 10, which he did at Tottenham. When he gets the ball more, he can do more dangerous things. But now, when it comes into a team where the ball has to be shared to Ronaldo's feet more often than not, because the fans are used to that, and you can't really hold it against him because it worked before. But Gareth Bale doesn't fit into the plan as well as he should have.
You need, that's why Jurgen Klopp would make sense as the coach, because he seems like to be a selfless coach. He's going to put on Borussia Dortmund was never a selfish team. Yeah. They also never had, I guess, a player not go to Bayern Munich and then left.
Apart from Marco Reus. They're still holding on to Reus. So
I do like Marco Reus.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the summer with that. I would imagine he could make his move. If Jurgen Klopp goes to Real Madrid, which I don't think will happen, it's already
Reus goes with him?
I think Reus could go, or someone like that. But it's interesting.
But that doesn't help the fucking back.
Yeah, I know. It's just another big name that comes in, but we'll see. So, we want to know what you guys think. Obviously, we love to be as interactive as possible. Let us know what you think about Carlo Ancelotti and whether you believe he should have been removed from his position at Real Madrid. Who do you think is going to come in? Is it Benitez? If you are Real Madrid fans, do you want to see Benitez? And as a closing note, to pay respect to Ancelotti, who is a good manager, let's take a quick look at his career statistics and come back again on TYT Sports.